We stood by the son who slept with his brother's wife. Now he lies in the ICU, broken and shattered. The family house is gone. The entire inheritance has vanished. And the good son, the one we betrayed, has cut us out of his life as if we never existed. For 38 years, my husband and I poured everything into raising our 2 boys. We attended every little league game, funded their college dreams, and gathered around the dinner table every Sunday. We weren't perfect, but we loved our boys. Both of them. Wesley, our oldest, turned 35 last month. Structural engineer. The kind of son who never gave us sleepless nights. Graduated with honors. Landed a solid job designing bridges. Married a nice girl named Vivian 6 years ago. Bought his own house with money his grandfather left him. Our father always had a soft spot for Wesley. Said he had an old soul. Wesley never asked us for anything. Not money, not advice unless he really needed it. Not even help moving furniture. Just handled things. Owen's different. 28. Still figuring himself out. Photography degree that hasn't quite turned into a career. He's creative, sensitive, needs more support. That's not a criticism. People develop at their own pace. He spent 2 years finding himself traveling through Europe. Came back to town 8 months ago talking about starting fresh. My husband and I suggested he stay with Wesley and Vivian while he got on his feet. Save on rent, rebuild his savings. Wesley said yes immediately because that's who he is. Responsible, reliable. We were grateful he had the space and the generosity. Everything seemed fine. Wesley was busy with some big bridge project, working long hours. Owen was picking up freelance photography gigs. Vivian mentioned at Sunday dinner that it was nice having company during the week when Wesley worked late. We thought that meant they were all getting along. Then Tuesday happened. My phone rang at 6:33 p.m. Wesley's name on the screen. I answered cheerfully. We need to talk. His voice stopped me cold, flat, no inflection. Like he was reading from a script written in ice. Wes, what's wrong? Family meeting tomorrow. Your house 6. Sweetheart, what's going on? Are you okay? Tomorrow 6. He hung up. I stood there holding the phone, my stomach twisting. My husband looked up from his newspaper, saw my face. What happened? Something's wrong with Wesley. We tried calling him back. Straight to voicemail. Tried Owen. No answer. Called Vivian's cell. Voicemail. Texted everyone. Nothing. That night I barely slept. Ran through every possibility. Was he sick? Losing his job? Getting divorced? Had someone died? Wesley doesn't do drama. If he's calling a family meeting with that tone, something catastrophic happened. My husband kept saying I was overreacting. He probably just wants to discuss something important. Maybe they're moving. Maybe Vivian's pregnant. But I knew mothers know. Wednesday dragged. I cleaned the house twice. Baked cookies nobody would eat. Set out coffee. My husband told me to stop fussing, but fussing was better than sitting still with my thoughts. 6. Our doorbell rang. Wesley stood on our porch alone. No, Vivian. He looked exactly like himself. Neat button down, clean shaven, car keys in hand. But something in his eyes was different. Distant, like he was looking at us from very far away. Where's Vivian? I asked, stepping aside to let him in. Not coming. He walked past us into the living room, sat on the armchair, not the couch where he usually sits. Formal, deliberate. My husband and I sat across from him. The silence stretched until I couldn't stand it anymore. Wesley, you're scaring us. What's going on? He looked at both of us. When he spoke, his voice was still that same flat tone from the phone. Owen and Vivian have been having an affair. I caught them yesterday in my house in my bed. The words hung there. I heard them, I understood the individual words, but they didn't make sense together. That can't be right, I said automatically. Owen wouldn't. Are you sure? My husband leaned forward. Could it be a misunderstanding? Maybe they were just I walked in on them. Wesley's voice didn't rise. Didn't crack. There's no misunderstanding. There's no other explanation. I opened my bedroom door and saw my brother sleeping with my wife. The bluntness of it hit like a slap. I felt tears spring to my eyes. My husband's face went pale. Oh God. I whispered. Wesley. I'm so sorry. That's how long is this? I don't know. I don't care. He stood up. We thought he was leaving, but he just walked to the window, looked out at the street. They both tried to explain. I didn't listen. I told them to get out. Owen's been texting. Vivian's been calling. I'm not responding. We need to. My husband started. I'm telling you as a courtesy. Wesley turned back to face us. His expression was completely neutral. That scared me more than anger would have. Anger would mean he was processing. This was something else. What you do with this information is your choice. But choose carefully. He left right after that. Didn't wait for our response. Just walked to the door, got in his car, and drove away. We stood at the window watching his taillights disappear down the street. My husband sank onto the couch. I couldn't sit. Couldn't think straight. This can't be happening, I said. Not Owen. Not with his brother's wife. How could he? We need to talk to him. My husband pulled out his phone. Get his side of the story. Owen didn't answer. 3 calls straight to voicemail. My husband left a message. Son, we know what happened. Call us. We need to hear from you. That's when the spiral started. My husband looked at me. What are people going to say? The thought hit me like cold water. Our church community, the neighbors, my book club friends who always asked about our successful sons. This kind of scandal, 2 brothers, 1 wife. It would be everywhere. Small town, big mouths. We can't let this get out, I said. If Wesley goes through with a divorce, if there's lawyers in court, and everyone will know. My husband rubbed his face. Jesus, this will destroy our reputation. I know how that sounds. I know. But in that moment, standing in our living room, all I could think about was facing Margaret at Sunday service while she whispered to the other women about my sister asking pointed questions at Thanksgiving, about being that family. Around 9, headlights pulled into our driveway. Owen stumbled through the door, looking like he'd been crying for hours. Red eyes, blotchy face, shaking hands. He saw us and broke down completely. I'm so sorry. He collapsed onto the couch, head in his hands. I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to happen. I don't know what came over me. It just happened and I couldn't stop. And now Wesley hates me and I deserve it. I deserve all of it. My maternal instinct kicked in before my brain caught up. I sat next to him, put my arm around his shoulders. He was sobbing like he used to when he was little and scraped his knee. Breathe, sweetheart. Just breathe. I ruined everything. Owen looked up at me with those eyes. The same eyes that used to beg for one more bedtime story. He'll never forgive me. I lost my brother. My husband sat on Owen's other side. Tell us what happened from the beginning. Owen talked for 20 minutes. How it started innocently. Vivian was lonely. He was around. They'd talk while Wesley worked late. How it turned into something else. How guilty he felt but couldn't stop. How he knew it was wrong but told himself it wasn't serious. Wasn't real. Wouldn't hurt anyone if they were careful. Classic rationalization. Classic. Owen. Always better at explaining than taking responsibility. But sitting there watching him fall apart, all I felt was the need to fix it, to make it better. That's what mothers do. My phone rang. Vivian. I stepped into the kitchen. Hello, please. Her voice was wrecked. Desperate. Please. I need to talk to Wesley. He won't answer. I made a terrible mistake, but I love him. I love my husband. This thing with Owen, it was stupid and meaningless, and I'll do anything to fix it. If he just talked to me, he needs time. Vivian, I don't think he's going to give me time. I think he's going to leave me. She was crying so hard I could barely understand her. Can you talk to him? You're his mother. He'll listen to you, please. I hung up feeling sick. Back in the living room, my husband and Owen were talking quietly. Owen looked up when I entered. Is she okay? He asked. No. Owen, nobody's okay right now. My husband stood. We need a plan. This can be managed. Managed. I stared at him. Think about it. He started pacing. Owen made a mistake. He's young. Impulsive. People make mistakes. Vivian made a mistake. Marriages have rough patches. But Wesley is strong. He's successful. He's rational. He's been hurt, yes, but he'll recover. He always does. I wanted to object. Something in my gut twisted. But another part of me, the part that was already thinking about Sunday service and Christmas dinner and what life would look like if this exploded publicly, that part agreed. Owen can't handle losing Wesley. I said quietly. Look at him. Owen was still crying silently on the couch. And Wesley can handle hard things. My husband continued. He's proven that his whole life. If we can just get him to calm down, to think clearly instead of emotionally, we should call him back. I said, talk to him together. We called. Wesley answered on the 3rd ring. Come back, my husband said. Please, we need to discuss this as a family. Long pause. Fine. Tomorrow, same time. Thursday evening, Wesley returned. Same chair, same neutral expression. We'd rehearsed what to say. My husband started. What happened is terrible. We're not minimizing that. But Owen is your brother. Family forgives. Family works through things. I added, you've always been so level-headed, Wesley. You can get through this. Owen can't handle losing you. You've seen him. And think about what divorce would look like. Lawyers, gossip, everyone knowing your business. Maybe counseling for everyone. There are marriage therapists who specialize in infidelity. Wesley's voice was quiet. Rebuilding trust. I corrected. My husband leaned forward. Blood is thicker than mistakes, son. You've built a good life. Don't let one betrayal destroy everything. Your marriage, your family, your reputation. Be the bigger person. That's what your grandfather would have wanted. That's what strong men do. Wesley just stared at us. Didn't interrupt. Didn't argue. Didn't defend himself or yell or storm out. Just sat there listening. His face completely unreadable. The silence stretched until my husband cleared his throat. So, what do you think? Wesley stood up slowly. You're asking me to forgive him. We nodded. You're asking me to stay with her. We nodded again. He looked at both of us for a long moment. Something flickered behind his eyes. I couldn't read it. Okay. Relief flooded through me. My husband exhaled. Crisis averted. Our son was being reasonable. Then Wesley said, I'll be quiet just like you want. And he walked out. We thought that meant he'd agreed. We thought quiet meant he'd process privately and eventually forgive. We thought we'd convinced him to take the high road. We didn't realize what quiet actually meant until it was too late. The first few days, we didn't push. Wesley needed space to cool off. That made sense. We'd given him the framework. Forgive, move forward, keep the family intact, and he'd said, okay. Now we just had to let him process. Owen stayed with us. He wasn't in any condition to be alone. Spent most of his time in his old bedroom. Came down for meals, asked every few hours if we'd heard from Wesley. We hadn't, but that was fine. Normal even. He'll come around. My husband assured Owen. He just needs time. Vivian called me daily. Has he contacted you? Is he talking to anyone? His car is not at the house. I don't know where he's staying. Give him space, I told her. He's thinking things through. 2 weeks later, Vivian appeared at our door holding a manila envelope. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely grip it. He filed for divorce. She thrust the papers at me. No conversation, no warning, just these delivered to the house by a process server. I scanned the documents. Legal language I barely understood, but the intent was crystal clear. Dissolution of marriage. Division of assets. My stomach dropped. This doesn't mean anything, I said. Though I didn't believe it. Lots of people file and then work things out. Read page 4. Her voice cracked. Page 4 detailed the prenuptial agreement. Ironclad. According to the notation, the house purchased entirely with Wesley's inheritance prior to marriage was solely his property. Vivian was entitled to her personal belongings, her vehicle, and nothing else. I didn't think he'd actually enforce it, Vivian whispered. I thought he loved me. Owen came downstairs, saw Vivian, froze. They stared at each other with a mixture of guilt and something else I didn't want to name. After Vivian left, Owen grabbed his phone. I'm calling him. This is insane. He called. I watched his face fall. What? My husband asked. The number you have dialed is no longer in service. Owen tried again. Same message. Tried texting. Message failed to deliver. He disconnected his phone. Try the house, I said. Owen drove over. Came back 20 minutes later. Pale locks are changed. I knocked for 10 minutes. A neighbor came out and asked what I wanted. When I said I was looking for my brother, she got this look on her face and said he doesn't live there anymore. Wouldn't tell me anything else. My husband frowned. Where would he go? We tried calling his office the next morning. The receptionist's voice was professionally pleasant. I'm sorry. Mr. Henderson has requested no visitors or calls from family members. I can take a message, but I can't guarantee he'll receive it. I'm his father, my husband said, louder than necessary. I understand, sir, but those are his instructions. My husband drove to Wesley's office building downtown. Security stopped him in the lobby. I'm here to see my son, Wesley Henderson, 7th floor. The guard checked his computer. I'm sorry, sir. You're on his restricted list. I can't grant you access. Restricted list. I'm his father. Company policy. Sir, if you continue to insist, I'll have to ask you to leave the premises. My husband came home furious. He had me put on a restricted list, like I'm some kind of threat. Then the for sale sign went up. I was driving past Wesley's house. I'd taken to doing that every few days just to see if his car was there. And there it was. Professional realtor sign. Bright and unmistakable. The house his grandfather left him. The house we'd had Sunday dinners in. The house that represented everything Wesley had built for sale. I called the realtor, pretended to be a potential buyer. Oh, yes. Beautiful property. The seller is motivated. Would you like to schedule a showing? Actually, I'm a family member. I was hoping to discuss. Her tone changed immediately. I'm sorry. The seller has been very explicit. No contact with former family members under any circumstances. I'm not authorized to provide any information beyond standard listing details. She hung up before I could respond. Owen spiraled, started drinking more. Vivian came by one night crying and somehow they ended up in his room together. It was desperate and ugly and wrong. My husband and I pretended not to notice. 6 weeks later, Vivian stopped coming around. Owen wouldn't say why, but I pieced it together. She'd moved on, found someone else, Left Owen just like Owen had helped her betray Wesley. The symmetry was almost poetic. Almost. Owen moved his things back into his childhood bedroom. No job. No apartment. At 28 years old, he was back where he started. 3 months after that family meeting, I tried Wesley's old number one more time. Disconnected. Checked his social media accounts, deleted, or I was blocked. I couldn't tell which. I sent a letter to the house, addressed to current resident. Please forward. It came back. Stamp returned to sender. Address unknown. He was gone. Actually completely gone. I was sitting at the kitchen table staring at the returned letter when my husband's phone rang. He answered, listened, and his face went gray. When? Yes, tomorrow at 2. We'll be there. Who was that? I asked. Preston Shaw, Dad's estate attorney. He set down his phone carefully like it might shatter. Apparently Wesley's been making changes to the family trust. Changes Preston thinks we need to know about. The way he said it made my blood run cold. Preston Shaw's office smelled like old leather and expensive wood. We'd been there before when my father-in-law died, when we updated our own wills. It had always felt comfortable, safe. Not this time. Preston didn't waste time on pleasantries. He was in his 60s, the kind of lawyer who'd seen everything and wasn't impressed by drama. He slid a folder across his mahogany desk. I'm required to notify you that you've been removed from certain legal documents. This is that notification. My husband opened the folder. I leaned over to read with him. I don't understand, my husband said after a moment. This is Dad's trust. Wesley's name is all over it. Yes, your father established the trust 23 years ago with Wesley as primary beneficiary. When Wesley turned 30, he gained discretionary control over all distributions and restructuring. Discretionary control, I repeated, full authority to manage the trust as he sees fit, including modifying beneficiaries and designations. My husband's jaw tightened. How much are we talking about here? Preston pulled out another document. The trust is currently valued at approximately $2.8 million. Your father was quite conservative with his investments. They grew substantially over time. I felt the air leave my lungs. $2.8 million. My voice came out as a whisper. We thought when Wesley bought the house, he said it was inheritance money. We assumed it was most of it, maybe $100,000. The house was purchased using roughly $180,000 from trust distributions. The principal remained intact, continuing to grow. My husband's hands were shaking, and Wesley controls all of it. Correct. As of 6 weeks ago, he restructured the entire trust. Owen has been removed as secondary beneficiary. You've both been removed as emergency contacts and contingent beneficiaries. The trust now designates 3 charities and a college scholarship fund as primary recipients upon Wesley's death. He can't do that. My husband stood up. That's family money. It's Wesley's money. Preston corrected firmly. Your father's will was explicit. The trust was designed specifically for Wesley with full control granted at age 30. Legally, you have no claim. You never did. But we're his parents, which is why I'm informing you as a courtesy. The law requires notification of removed parties. That's the only reason we're having this conversation. I couldn't process it. $2.8 million. Wesley had been quietly wealthy this entire time, and we'd never known, never asked, just assumed. The house, I said weakly. The sale closed 4 weeks ago, sold for $440,000. Those funds, combined with his existing assets, have been transferred to accounts I'm not authorized to discuss. Preston's expression softened slightly. I can tell you that Wesley is no longer in this state. Beyond that, client confidentiality prevents me from saying more. We sat in stunned silence. So, he just took everything and disappeared. My husband finally said. He exercised his legal rights and relocated. Yes. The drive home was silent. We pulled into our driveway and sat there for 10 minutes before going inside. Owen was in the kitchen making coffee. He took one look at our faces and set down his mug. What happened? My husband told him, watched Owen's face crumble as he absorbed each detail. The trust, the amount, the restructuring, the permanence of Wesley's absence. This is my fault. Owen slumped against the counter. All of this. For once, we didn't contradict him. That night, my husband and I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. We're not poor, he said quietly. Our retirement accounts are fine. The house is paid off. We'll be okay. But we both knew what he wasn't saying. We'd always had a safety net we didn't acknowledge. The knowledge that if something went wrong, medical emergency, financial crisis, anything, Wesley would be there. Successful, stable Wesley, who never needed help, would help us if we needed it. That safety net was gone. More than that, we'd driven it away ourselves. Months passed. Fall turned to winter. No Christmas card from Wesley. No birthday call. His absence was a presence all its own, filling rooms, dominating conversations we weren't having. Owen tried to rebuild. Got a job at a photography studio downtown. Minimum wage but steady. Started therapy. Stopped drinking as much, But there was a heaviness to him now that hadn't been there before. The golden child had tarnished himself, and he knew it. 6 months after that meeting in Preston's office, I was folding laundry when my husband's phone rang. I heard his sharp intake of breath from the other room. What hospital? Christ. Yes, we'll be right there. I dropped the towel I was holding. He appeared in the doorway. Face ashen. Owen's been in a car accident. Street Mary's ICU, they said it's serious. We grabbed our coats and ran. The ICU waiting room was institutional gray and too bright. Fluorescent lights humming overhead. Smell of disinfectant and bad coffee. A doctor met us. Young woman with tired eyes who'd clearly delivered bad news before. Mr. and Mrs. Henderson, your son is stable, but his injuries are significant. 3 broken ribs, collapsed lung, severe concussion, lacerations across his chest and face from the steering wheel. He wasn't wearing a seatbelt. Oh God, I gripped my husband's arm. Can we see him soon? He's sedated right now. But there's something you should know. She paused, choosing her words. His blood alcohol level was 0.15, nearly twice the legal limit. He drove his car into a concrete barrier on the highway. No other vehicles involved. The police will want to speak with him when he's conscious. My husband's face went pale. He was drunk. Yes. After she left, we sat in those terrible plastic chairs. My mind was racing and blank at the same time. He's been doing better, I said to no one. The therapy, the job, I thought he was doing better. Apparently not. My husband's voice was flat. When they finally let us in, Owen looked broken. Not just physically, the tubes, the monitors, the bandages, but fundamentally shattered. His eyes opened when we entered, focused on us, filled with tears. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry. Shh. Don't talk. Just rest. No. He tried to sit up, winced, fell back. You need to know. I was driving home from a bar thinking about Wesley, about what I did, about how he's gone and it's my fault and I can't. His voice broke. I can't fix it. I tried calling him again yesterday. Number still disconnected. He's just gone. Owen. I wasn't trying to crash, but I wasn't trying not to either. I just didn't care anymore. The machines beeped steadily. My husband stared at his hands. That night, back in the waiting room, while Owen slept, we finally said what we'd been avoiding for months. We did this, I whispered. My husband looked at me. We protected the wrong son. We demanded Wesley sacrifice himself so Owen wouldn't face consequences. And now Owen's destroying himself anyway, and Wesley is I couldn't finish. Gone. My husband completed the sentence. Wesley's gone. We need to find him. Tell him about Owen. He needs to know. We tried the disconnected number, tried email, bounced back, tried reaching out through Wesley's old college friends on social media. No one responded or they said they hadn't heard from him in months. Finally, desperately, we hired a private investigator. Cost us $2,000. We couldn't really spare. 3 days later, he called back, found him. Denver, Colorado. Works for the same engineering firm, different office. Got a new address, new phone number. Seems to be doing well. Want the contact information? Yes, please. That evening, I held a piece of paper with my son's phone number on it, a number I had to pay a stranger to find. I dialed with shaking hands. It rang. My heart hammered. Hello. His voice. After 9 months of silence, Wesley's voice. Wesley. It's Mom. The words tumbled out. Owen's been in an accident. He's in ICU. I know we haven't talked. I know you're angry. But he's hurt badly, and he's asking for you and we need. Is he going to survive? The question was clinical cold. Yes, but then there's nothing to discuss. Take care. The line went dead. I called back immediately. The number you have dialed is not accepting calls from this number. Blocked. I looked at my husband. He hung up. He doesn't care. Then I'm going to Denver. My husband stood up. He can hang up on a phone call. He can't walk away from a face-to-face conversation. 2 days later, my husband flew to Denver. Used the PI's information to find Wesley's apartment building. High-rise downtown, all glass and steel. Doorman wouldn't let him up without resident approval. I'm his father. Just call up and tell him I'm here. The doorman made the call. Listened, hung up. I'm sorry, sir. He's declined. My husband waited outside for 4 hours. Finally, around 6:30, Wesley emerged from the building in a suit, briefcase in hand, saw his father standing there. Stop. You shouldn't have come, Wesley said. Your brother almost died. My husband's voice shook. He was drunk, driving recklessly, and he crashed because he's falling apart without you. We made mistakes. I know that, but he needs you. We need you. Please just come to the hospital. Just once Wesley stood there on the sidewalk, people flowing around them. And for a moment, my husband thought he saw something flicker in his eyes. Hesitation maybe, or just exhaustion. You asked me to be quiet, to be the bigger person, To prioritize family unity over my own pain. I did exactly what you wanted. Wesley's tone was conversational, almost friendly. That made it worse. I stayed quiet. I unified the family you actually cared about. You, Mom, and Owen. You got what you asked for. That's not my husband started. Yes, it was. Wesley adjusted his briefcase. You made your choice. You chose protecting Owen over supporting me. You chose your reputation over my dignity. You chose wrong and now you're living with the consequences. That's not my problem. He's your brother and you're my parents. That didn't seem to matter when I needed you. Wesley's voice didn't rise, didn't crack, just stated facts. Owen will recover or he won't. Either way, I won't be there. Tell him I hope he gets better. Tell Mom I'm doing well and don't contact me again. He walked away, just turned and walked down the street, disappeared into the evening crowd. My husband stood there on that Denver sidewalk and watched our son become a stranger. When he came home the next day and told me what Wesley said, we both sat at our kitchen table in silence. Owen was being discharged in 2 days. He'd asked 3 times if Wesley was coming. We'd avoided answering. Now we had to tell him the truth. Wesley wasn't coming, wasn't calling, wasn't ever coming back. We hadn't lost our son in that moment on the sidewalk. We'd lost him 9 months ago when we asked him to forgive the unforgivable. The silence between then and now had just made it permanent. Owen came home from the hospital with a walker and a prescription for pain medication. We watched like hawks. He moved slower now, not just physically. Everything about him had dimmed. The first night back, he sat at the kitchen table picking at dinner. Finally looked up at us. He's not coming, is he? My husband and I exchanged glances. We tried. Sweetheart. I said, your father flew to Denver. We called. It's okay. Owen set down his fork. I understand. I wouldn't come either if I were him. The acceptance in his voice was worse than anger would have been. Physical therapy took months. Owen went religiously, never missed an appointment, got cleared to go back to work part-time. His therapist said he was making progress, facing what he'd done, taking responsibility, learning to live with consequences. But the weight never lifted. I'd catch him staring at nothing, lost in thoughts I couldn't reach. One evening, 3 months after the accident, I found him looking at Wesley's LinkedIn profile on his phone. He got promoted, Owen said without looking up. Senior engineer, there's a photo from some awards ceremony. He looks good, happy. I looked over his shoulder. Wesley in a suit holding a plaque, smiling next to colleagues. A woman stood beside him in another photo from the same event professional setting, but something about the way they stood suggested familiarity. He's moved on, Owen whispered. Without us, Owen, I'm glad. He locked his phone. I mean it. I'm glad he's happy. I just wish he trailed off. We both knew how that sentence ended. That night, my husband and I wrote a letter, poured everything into it. The apology we should have given immediately. The acknowledgement of what we'd done wrong. The understanding that came too late. We wrote about how we'd prioritized the wrong things. How we'd asked Wesley to be smaller so Owen could stay comfortable. How we'd mistaken silence for weakness when it was actually strength. How we finally understood that protecting Owen from consequences hadn't protected him at all. It had destroyed him and cost us everything. We begged for a chance, not to undo what couldn't be undone, but just to talk, to hear his voice, to know he was okay directly from him, not through a LinkedIn profile. I addressed the envelope to Wesley's Denver address, mailed it with a prayer. Weeks passed, no response. The letter wasn't returned. He'd received it, read it probably, and chosen not to answer. That hurt more than any words he could have said. My husband and I sat in our living room on what would have been Wesley's 36th birthday. Owen was upstairs giving us space. We hadn't mentioned the date, but he knew he's not coming back, my husband said. Not a question, a statement. No, we really did lose him. I nodded, throat tight. I keep thinking about that night. My husband continued when he told us about Owen and Vivian. He stopped. If we just stood by him, told Owen he was wrong, told Vivian she'd destroyed her marriage. If we'd just been his parents instead of worrying about what people would think, but we didn't. No, we didn't. The grandfather clock in the corner ticked steadily. Time moving forward, indifferent to our regrets. A year after the accident, Owen moved into his own apartment, a small studio across town, but it was his. He was managing, functioning, still going to therapy, still working, still sober, but he'd never be who he was before. That golden child, charming, careless, confident, was gone. In his place was someone quieter, sadder, permanently marked by what he'd done. We saw him for Sunday dinners. The tradition continued. But Wesley's absence was a fourth presence at the table. We didn't talk about him much. It hurt too much. Holidays were hardest. Empty chair at Thanksgiving. No stocking for Christmas. My husband stopped taking family photos. What was the point? We weren't complete anymore. Friends asked about Wesley occasionally. How's your oldest doing? Still in engineering. Oh, he's doing very well. Living in Denver. Very busy with work. We never mentioned we hadn't spoken in over 2 years. Pride is strange that way. We couldn't admit we destroyed our own family. Sometimes I lie awake at night wondering if Wesley thinks about us. If he's angry or if somehow worse, he's just indifferent. If we're just people he used to know, fading into distant memory. The anger would mean we still mattered. Indifference means we don't. I think about the grandson or granddaughter we might never meet. Wesley might have children someday. They'll grow up not knowing us. Won't understand why grandma and grandpa aren't in the picture. Might not even ask. We'll be strangers to our own grandchildren because we chose to protect the wrong son. My husband pulled out a photo album last week. Old pictures, both boys as children, teenage years, Wesley's college graduation, his wedding. He stared at Wesley's graduation photo for a long time. He's wearing that same smile in his LinkedIn picture. My husband said quietly. Same confidence. He didn't need us to succeed. He never did. No. I agreed. He needed us to support him, to choose him when it mattered. We didn't. My husband closed the album without responding. People say time heals all wounds. They're wrong. Time just teaches you to live with the wounds you've inflicted on yourself. The scar tissue builds up. You learn to function around the pain, but it never really stops hurting. We wanted to protect our family. Instead, we fractured it beyond repair. We chose which son mattered more. We chose to demand silence instead of offering justice. We chose our comfort over Wesley's dignity. Owen lives with the guilt of betrayal. We live with the guilt of enabling it. The son we betrayed didn't need revenge. He didn't need to hurt us back or make us suffer. He just walked away. Built a life we're not part of. Found happiness that doesn't include us. And that distance, that permanent, irreversible silence is the price we'll pay for the rest of our lives. We thought we were preserving family unity. Instead, we learned what family really means. Not protecting people from consequences, but standing with them when consequences come. We learned too late. The house is quieter now. Owen visits on Sundays. We go through the motions. But there's a ghost at every meal. Not Wesley himself, but the relationship we destroyed. And in Denver, 800 miles away, our son lives a life we'll never see. Makes decisions we won't influence. Celebrates victories we won't witness. Maybe falls in love with someone who will never know his parents' names. He chose silence. We chose to make it necessary. And now we sit in the wreckage of what we broke. Holding pieces that will never fit back together. Learning to breathe through the weight of permanent loss. This is what we deserve. This is what we earned. This is the silence we asked for. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you really like our videos, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Have a great day.